Hey Ashley,
What's up, dude? How's it going?
it's going. I, we
Yeah.
have we have a very interesting episode ahead of us here. So listeners, I know you're ready to get into this craziness. But before we do, I do just kind of want to give a quick shout. Uh, Season 2, episode 3 of this podcast. We talked about the bikini bumps, lipstick pickups, split 7 inch that we did, and we are, coming to you with some sad news. But Jeff Farrell of the Bikini Bumps and many other bands, Thrash Cats, has sadly passed away, and we will miss him. He will be missed. The last time we did something with him, it was the 15-year anniversary of the record label, and the band, I don't even know if they were playing together at that point, but they got together and rehearsed some songs and drove from Anaheim to Vegas to, party with us. And, um, tonight we'll pour some out for you, Jeff. You always brighten the room with both your guitar talents and that smile. Um, so thank you for bearing with us, but we did have to give that shout out because Jeff was amazing. But what we have in store today is a long running experimental sound collage um, act, let's say, or artist rather, called Kill the Scientist, that started around 89 with the tape loops, all the way until about 2016 before it was kind of laid to rest. But the album that we're talking about today actually came out on July 1st, 2003. There was we used a lot of different instruments and ways of recording. Some of the recordings were, the first kind of digital tools that were on the market in 2003. Loops and newfangled beat machines. But also we used a 4-track recorder and recorded guitars and bass and voices and keyboards and other loops, taking the digital loops and putting it onto the tape. Um, and really what was birthed was this album. And just before we were going to release it, the band broke up for the first of
Oh,
many times. Um, and so the decision was made, you know what, we put all this effort and work into this. Let's just release it and give it to the world for free. So that was kind
oh,
of before the days of pay what you will, or, we were just like, here, it's 2003. You guys are illegally downloading stuff using LimeWire. Here,
gotcha.
just take it for free. And, it was very experimental in nature. If you like this kind of stuff, you love all the, crazy experimental stuff coming out of Japan and, Russia, like this is up your alley. So this album specifically is a concept album. And it was supposed to be much grander, it was supposed to have like a comic book companion and all of these different things. But it did come with a storyline. So I'd like to read a little bit of that, and then I'll turn it to you, Ashley, because I know you're probably like, okay, wait, what? Okay, so the storyline goes as such. It had been complete and utter chaos since the demise, since the god or gods punished humans for the destruction of Earth itself. So, if a punishment were to be chosen, then why not death? Why not starvation or fire or disease? Why has the human population of Earth been forsaken like this? The global united scientific community of Earth, CE, in 2170 AD transmitted a message to the multimedia internet TV of every home in the global union. So I'm just going to pause right there. Again, this was 2003. So we were barely getting Hotmail. So this is like the leader has transmitted this message to every internet TV in the Union. The transmission had an attached holographic representation of the commander-in-chief as he gave a speech in the city-sized world headquarters of GUSCE, which before the inevitable World War V was a city by the name of Istanbul. The commander-in-chief bravely spoke to his nation, his Earth. And it goes on. It keeps going on from there, but the first track we're going to listen to is actually a reenactment of that holographic presentation as if you were in one of these homes in this future.
Well,
Yeah. Right up your alley.
I love a good song cycle. Little sci-fi song cycle going on. As I bring the classical music back into it, which will probably not be an applicable term at all. And I love some good sci-fi.
Yeah. So, but this is going to be a little different than some of the episodes that have preceded this one. So yeah. So I mean, unless you have any burning questions, we'll jump right in.
Not yet, but I suspect, given how you've described this, that I definitely will.
So here's the track: Global Scientific Commander-in-Chief.
Okay, that was Global Scientific Commander-in-Chief by Kill the Scientists. As I was listening, I was trying to put myself in the headspace of someone in the far distant future who might be more accustomed to that kind of like technological noise.
Mm-hmm.
As someone who lives in the distant past in relation to that, if the way that starts out with respect to the artist makes me want to go hide already in the fallout shelter 8 years in advance.
Yes. Exactly.
It definitely gives that doomy energy.
Now we have 8 years. What are we gonna do? We're gonna rob some banks. We're gonna, fall in love, or
Do you just go ape shit for 8 years and then
exactly? Or does anything matter anymore? And also, what I wanted to do with that soundscape. So it's very distorted. You can't tell, but a lot of that noise was guitar. That was
really
guitar through a lot of different effects.
Okay.
And it was kind of mimicking how in the 50s, not everyone had a television set, but you had the one and it had the rabbit ears, and sometimes it would just be like, and you had to hit the TV or move the thing or add some tinfoil. So this was kind of one of those. So I was in my mind like, whoever this is, or maybe they're in a bunker and they're just like, and so the message keeps getting, you can hear it, but you can't hear it. So he's like, come on, and he keeps rewinding it. And then eventually it hits. And then all of those guitar noises, which are just really, this kind of distortion of not catching the antenna rays or whatever.
Okay.
It comes into crystal clear, and all those other things kind of die away. And you hear the echo of the commander-in-chief in front of, like the White House or whatever kind of thing. So that was the thought process there. So, and if anyone hasn't figured out, I Kill the Scientist was always, Shahab plus special guests. And it was always supposed to be a secret. I guess this podcast has brought that out, or maybe it's been so long, it's like time to unclassify. But yeah, so and again, that was like to tie it into the storyline. It was meant to kind of go along, like as you're on the third
Makes
page of the
sense.
comic book, that track comes on, Uh, but the band kind of went its separate ways, and we just said, you know what, we're just going to release this for free. All right, so this next track is called "Been Taught" in parentheses. And but before we play that, I do want to say there's a lot of stuff on here. Like some of the samples we did were the dot matrix printers, doing their little mechanical sounds. Um, we had uh, songs that were kind of in public domain, but then we would also play them backwards. And so you're
Oh,
hearing these horns and these trumpets doing this jazz thing, and it sounds normal until you really listen, and it's actually a song, and the sound from the horns going back in like the I mean, it goes all over the place. But one of the funnest tracks is called Lunger's Groove, and it's really at the butt end of it. And my feeling about this track was, if you made it this far, you know what I mean? Like if you didn't hit stop on track number 7 and you're like, no, like this is just, I don't understand what's going on here. Then you deserved a special like treat, right? And so Lunger's Groove, it's about 8 minutes long, and you're kind of like this, fly or parrot on the shoulder of this main character who comes to Lunger's Inn, and he goes into the tavern, and he starts drinking, and there's people fighting and people talking about, what the future of Earth looks like. Um, really quite eclectic. Yeah. So um, the funny thing about this Kill the Scientist project is it was always just me making sound collages. Um, and just utilizing technology, maybe even not the way it was supposed to be used, and coming up with this new creation, because there was, by the time I started making music, sampling was a thing, you know. But people in hip hop and they were using it in different ways, and I wanted to use it um, bombastically, And so this concept album kind of came out of that.
I definitely think you've succeeded. So I'm going to ask for a favor for Been Taught. Um, After expressing my love for you, I adore you. But I do struggle with albums like this. But what did help me was when you gave me a little bit of the story to see through, to kind of clasp onto the sounds I was hearing conceptually rather than just kind of mentally trying to sort out the sound. Could you, for both me and our audience members who may still be trying to explore their relationship with this genre, could you set us up a little bit?
Yeah. So the scenario of this story is a meteor not big enough to kill the human race like one did with the dinosaurs, but one hits. And, that could be an actual, in that universe, the physical meteor hit, or it could be, a metaphor for just, you know, the meteor that struck was the climate change, or it was the, constantly warring humans, or, AI taking over, whatever it was, something smashes society, and we go into this post-apocalyptic world. And so it wasn't really supposed to be philosophical or profound. It was just almost like a character study of living in that kind of world.
So where in that cycle of experience is Been Taught? Or what is it reflecting?
So I think that one, okay. So I'm gonna answer it, but then before I do though, I'm gonna preface
Mhm.
with, I really love how Stanley Kubrick answers these questions.
Ah,
He usually does not answer them, and he says, it's wrong for me as the creator to give you an idea. Like, you need to tell me what it is, or what you feel it is. It's almost like when the painter is done painting, now it's the interaction with the viewer that is the art,
Yeah,
right? So, but I will answer that in that there was a book called The Road. Have you read The Road? They also
I
made
have
a
not.
film with Viggo Mortensen. And it's all about, again, kind of like a post-apocalyptic world. We don't know what did it. It's not zombies or anything, but basically it's just Viggo Mortensen and his son. They do not see any other humans.
Wow.
They can't find any. They can't find any. They don't see any. They don't. And so as the story progresses, this man just feels so sad that his son will never know Coca-Cola, will never know a movie theater, will never go on a high school date. But in the end, I'm sorry, spoiler alert, but this book's been out for a while and there's a movie. Um, at the end, you come to realize as the viewer, as the reader, that the kid's gonna be fine. This is the kid's world. It's you should be worried about. It's you who's never gonna have a Coca-Cola again. This kid doesn't know that, and it's not,
Yeah.
and that's okay, and that's just what it is. And so, been taught is kind of, now that the world is like this, you kind of have to get rid of what you've been taught, like what. And again, like, is anyone going to get this from the soundscapes we're going to hear? I don't know, but
Yeah.
that's kind of
Yeah.
where I was going with it. Like,
Cool.
now the world is a dystopian mess, and you gotta you know beat a couple people up. I don't know,
Yeah,
or whatever.
like you
You got to
do.
do what you got to do.
Yeah. Gotta make it work. Cool. Thank you. That
Yeah,
that helps set
exactly.
me up,
So
even if it does go
yeah,
against Stanley Kubrick's philosophies.
yeah. So all right, here we go. So this has been taught from the free album "Fall of Mankind" by Kill the Scientist.
Right. That was Been Taught by Kill the Scientist. Sorry, that one sends me deep, deep into my brain.
So that had metal elements. It had Iranian dombak drum elements. It had
Oh, cool.
flute slowed down elements. It had electric guitar.
there's so much to take in, and I don't know if it comes through in the podcast in its final form, but there's such interesting like binaural mixing in the way that you
Mhm.
have it um go through. Um there is having the context makes such a huge difference to me because then I
Which is
start
why I wish the comic book, you know what I mean? The comic book
yeah,
would have
I see the vision that went with
elevated. Yeah. I mean, it would,
um
yeah, it would have given you that context to be like, I see where you're
it
going with this, you know?
yeah, it this is going to seem like a very weird reference. It reminds me of some of the more intense tracks in the Fear and Hunger Termina, which is the second video game that came out. There were some very experimental, very dystopian ideas both behind that game and in particular settings that were very kind of nightmare fuely and evokes these feelings of like despair and hopelessness and you're fucked.
And fear.
And this very much brought me and fear and
Cool.
hunger.
I'm sorry,
And this
but
very
cool.
much brought me back to that. No, it was really cool. And I will that game soundtrack because of the context. It's not stuff I would recreationally listen to, but I love the visceral response that it inspires in both me and the listeners, which is one of the reasons why this isn't typically music I would listen to because it freaks me out at like a lizard brain level.
Yes.
But there is something magical about the fact that you're able to evoke such a powerful
Yeah,
response. And a
so
lot of it has to do with the
so
carefulness.
I think it was in 94 or 95, I created a Kill the Scientist track by accident because I had a Pearl Jam CD and there was a like deep scratch in it. My mom's like, you know how some people had small CD players and big CD players. Like she had one of those big
Yeah.
ones with a receiver and
Yeah.
like all these things. That CD player would not stop on scratch CDs. It would like
Oh,
kind of DJ. It would be like and then you
yes.
kind of hit fast forward and then it would go to a different part of the scratch and go to bum bum
Yeah.
bum bum. And so
Oh,
I
cool.
took those and I just recorded them on a cassette and then used that as my sample for the song that I created or whatever the song was called. I can't even remember at this point.
He's been an
Yeah,
experimental artist from the beginning,
totally. And then,
which I love.
which a lot of people, and they weren't supposed to know that I was doing the Kill the Scientist thing. Well, close friends knew, but um, when I did my first album ever, like put out an album, I've been in bands, I've been in all these different, but I've never had a Shahab Zagari album. When I
Yeah.
did, that one was also sound collage and was building on all of this that I had been doing as a kid, growing up and doing it,
Cool.
and just kind of in a honed in, polished style. And it's not even polished. It's still very weird and experimental. And, people are going to be like, I don't get it, which is fine. It's not supposed to be for that. Like there's certain Japanese experimental artists. I mean, literally, their albums are noise, drills, and like just like, and that's for those fans, and
It's a
it's
cool
okay.
part of the
Yeah,
compositional soundscape, and it's true, like, it's not compatible with everybody, it's frequently not compatible with me and the way my brain works, but it's such a cool thing to expose yourself to, and to hear from the artist why they made those choices, which is why I feel very spoiled to be able to grill you about this, because it is fascinating to find out what you sampled to make those audio distortions that are harder to recognize.
yeah, yeah.
Because
So
it's
like
just
with
it's
this
the
song, with
process is cool.
the Iranian songs, I mean, those are licensed samples from actual, albums that my parents have. But I figured, they don't care about our copyrights and steal all our movies and sell them on the black market. So I'm just gonna
There you
sample
go.
a hand drum and
That's
your flute, and then I'm gonna slow the flute down so people think it's a
you know,
didgeridoo or something. But yeah.
yeah.
So thank you, Ashley. Thanks for
Thank you.
bearing with this experimental music. But
Oh, it's
you
cool.
know, it's kind of that's as far as on the audio side. That's my art. Sound collaging, sampling, but not necessarily the way anyone else does it. Just trying to find what can be done, pushing
So
it to
much
its
more complex
boundaries.
than Ice Ice Baby, taking it to a much greater level.
Well, thank you. Thank
That's
you.
the one I always think of, is like the foundation of colloquial sampling, and then you
Mm-hmm.
took it to the 35th degree.
Mm-hmm. Aw, well, thank you. I mean, I
Well,
don't think so. I think I took it to the ninth degree,
I think it's really cool,
11th, but
like
thank
especially
you.
with the storyline. Anyway, I'll let you
Yeah, and then
continue
so
to wrap this up.
listeners, if you did want to read more of the story, because I did not read through all of it, that is on the Bandcamp page, gcrecords.bandcamp.com. Just look for The Fall of Mankind. Next episode is going to
Whoop, whoop.
be our value compilation with, it was basically 6 bands, each giving 4 tracks.
Aw,
So a little mini EP kind of shared, and we went all out on the cover art. It kind of looks like an ad of, uh, like a self-help, not self-help, but
love it.
like exercise. You know what I mean? Like get your
Oh, that's
guns in
awesome.
gear. 6 steps to a better you. And then number
Hell
one
yeah.
is this band. Number 2 is that band. And it says, be the person you always knew you could be. For more information, listen. So anyway,
I
so
love it.
that is going to be really fun. There's a lot of really great acts, but also we're going to hear P-Lander Z again. We're going to hear
Whoop.
Lipstick Pickups again. We're going to hear
Yeah.
Nazis from Mars again. So this is going to be amazing. Shout out to the other bands, Boat Adrenaline, Zero Content, TNAP. We'll get to that on the next episode. Until then, Ashley, stay cool.
Shahab, rock on.